Hi, and welcome into this Telstra virtual event. I'm Justin Cleveland, and today we're talking about Facebook and how to maximize your business using the social platform. We'll be talking about things including advertising, about posting, times of day, just about anything that you want to know. This also is your chance to ask. You'll see a Q&A box up on your screen. Please submit your questions early and often. By the way, on your screen, you can resize the box. You can move things around. And also along the bottom of your screen, you'll see speaker bios and you can learn all about our speaker here today, who let's go ahead and introduce. And that is Ross Wakeham. He is a client partner for Facebook. And if you're going to look at the picture on your screen, you're going to go, well, Ross looks a little bit different. Well, there are a few differences here. First of all, he's cut his hair. And second of all, he decided to play rugby a couple of days before joining us and had some issues.
I did, yeah. An unintentional collision with a stray boot. But I'm recovering fast.
That's good.
Thank you for the concern.
So thank you for coming in and joining us today. And we do have a lot to get into. So why don't we go ahead and just get started. And the first question I have is actually for you in the audience. And that is, what is your biggest challenge or frustration with social media? Is it turning your followers into customers? Is it getting traffic to your whatever it is? Is it your website, your blog, or social platform? Is it matching social platforms to your customers, so finding the right person on those social platforms? Is it how to best use and optimize social platforms? Or is it managing your time and productivity, so having the right content and doing it very quick and easily? So will those populate? Ross, you obviously talk to a lot of people about a lot of things. What's the most common frustration with social media?
I think the most common frustration is trying to get a gauge of what you've just done and whether it's successful or not. I think a lot of advertisers like to, I guess when they're new to the platform, like to test the waters a bit, and they'll put some money towards a post with the intentions of maybe that's going to drive foot traffic, but maybe they haven't considered their objectives well enough to actually do best practice to actually hit those objectives. Yeah. So, I mean, part of what we can discuss today is how you can go through that full process from objective setting to measuring success, so you can actually walk away knowing if Facebook as a platform is something that's working for your business.
Yeah. So looking at the responses, it looks about 50-50 right now, how to best use and optimize the platform and how to turn those followers into customers. Because it's great to have somebody like you, but if they just like you and don't buy anything from you, don't use your service, whatever, then almost what's the point of them? So let's get into it today and talk about how things have changed, because there's still a role for community and for getting to know your customers, but you can accentuate that, I think, with digital.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll jump into the first slide because I'll tell a bit of a story, I guess, of from our perspective how the marketing communications industry has sort of evolved in time. And if we go back 50 years ago to the scene that you're seeing on the screens there, it was doing business was very much a personal thing. You'd have your local store owner who would know you by name, who would know what products you'd previously purchased from them and could upsell you and have a personal, delightful conversation with you. But then as sort of times moved on and technology moved on, and we can jump onto the next slide here, you had the Industrial Revolution. Obviously, you had mainstream TV became a thing about 20 years ago. So all of a sudden, advertisers could get so much scale from their business and reach far wider audiences. But obviously, with TV, it's a one-to-many type communication tool. So
it's the same problem as newspaper, it's the same problem as radio, and the same problem in TV.
Exactly. So you move away from that personal conversation that you would have had with your store owner because they personally know you or something about you, from one message which tries to cater for everyone within that living room.
Yeah, especially when there were 3 channels and you had nothing else to watch. Do you see there still being a role for a national brands, big enterprise within the digital space?
As in, are big brands using the digital space to communicate that? Absolutely. And it all comes to who their target audience is. I mean, some demographics are still very heavy TV users, where other demographics become much more difficult to identify and target on TV. And TV is still a great way to obviously get awareness of your brand through sights under motion. But what the increasing challenge is what the mix should be, because I was speaking to a client a few weeks ago, and even 10 years ago, you could put an ad, a 60-second ad, on the Sunday movie spot, and you'd hit 70% of Australians. Like that doesn't exist anymore. Sunday movies aren't really a thing anymore, and the way that people are consuming media, and it has changed. And that sort of, I've got another slide here which sort of talks to I guess, that living room environment and what it probably looks like now. And there'd be a lot of families and people in there that can kind of relate to this.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of is great for advertisers, but it's also a challenge for advertisers. It's great in that because everyone now essentially has their own individual screen, you can have a personal conversation with them again and cut out efficiencies by only talking to the right person. But it also makes the whole thing a lot more complicated.
Yeah. Well, I read a story not too long ago that said children look at being forced to watch something on a television as a punishment because they're used to having their own device and being able to be in control of everything. So yeah, there's a severe fragmentation in the market.
Exactly, and you've got guys like Netflix and Stan and all these guys in the market
and
now.
And the fine people at Presto.
And Presto, and they've completely flipped the model. So yeah, the expectations of the users are so different now.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about how we have to journey to reach these various people in various segments, but with a unified message.
So yeah, I just wanted to give an example in this slide of how you can try to hone in on your audience and just give a bit of a flavor of some of the targeting that Facebook offers. So this is a demonstration of how you basically might hone in on me through the Facebook platform. If you flick through here, so you look at the entire Facebook audience, and then okay, I'm going to filter that by age, and then you filter that by my product is more has more meaning to an expat, for example. And then you can look at things like what mobile phone they're using and how long they've been using that mobile phone, which might be really interesting information for Telstra, for example. Because if someone's got an iPhone 3, then they're probably the low-hanging fruit to have a message about iPhone 6.
Yeah.
Because they're probably due an upgrade. Exactly. And then if you keep moving through this, you can get down to location information, where someone lives, and then finally you start looking at things like behaviors. So for me on Facebook, you can identify whether I'm a frequent traveler or not.
Yeah.
Like whether I'm using Wi-Fi and ISP connections from interstate or overseas, because if you're a travel insurance company, for example, that's probably going to be a relevant audience for you to hit that with. Oh,
that's interesting. Okay. So, I mean, what kind of micro-targeting can you do within Facebook? Because it seems to me that it almost gets a little, I don't want to say Big Brother-ish, but knowing that Ross travels often because you check in from a variety of places, you know, how micro-targeted can you get?
I mean, all the targeting options on Facebook, it's all anonymous and it's all aggregated.
Okay.
So an advertiser never knows that Ross is within this audience. An advertiser just sees, here's an audience with these predefined conditions, and I happen to be one of them. And there are a bunch of different filters that you can apply, and I've got some screenshots examples later on. And yeah, whether it's interest targeting or demographic targeting or life stage targeting to try and hone in, because it almost comes back to the previous slide. Rather than that spray and pray approach of traditional media, you can target right in on a much smaller audience, a much more appealing audience to you, and it means you don't have to pay as much money to reach them. At the end of the day.
And actually, we're going to get into the balance of payments and of the bidding system.
Exactly.
Because it is a bit, I don't want to say it's confusing, but it's a bit different than the standard media model.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you just mentioned the spray and pray model, which is a new one for me. I like that as a concept, though. But it was easy. You know, you had the Sunday paper. You just looked at the Sunday paper and you said, everybody gets the Sunday paper. I want to put my ad on the first page. And that was effective for getting a lot of eyes on your message.
Yeah, absolutely. And that model, as you said, existed for a very long time. And then sort of digital advertising came along, and digital advertising is held to a lot more accountability than a newspaper ad. I actually started my career in a newspaper company, and a newspaper company can't tell you the value of an ad on page 2 versus the value of an ad on page 35.
Yeah.
There's no way of measuring who's turning to what page of the newspaper. So the accountability and knowing what a return on investment is in the digital world becomes clearer.
I look at things in terms of Mad Men because I just wrapped up the series. You know, are we going to see those sorts of national, international touchpoint campaigns in the future, or is that going away because of digital? Because I mean, we're all fragmented and not you know, it's not the spot that was on in prime time on the show that everybody watched.
I mean, there are still absolutely brands that have universal appeal that everyone is a customer of. So if you look at Coca-Cola or Telstra, everyone's a customer of, or could be a customer of Coca-Cola and Telstra. But everyone might use Telstra for a different reason. Everyone might want to hear something slightly different from Telstra. So it's still mass communications in a sense, but you've almost got pockets within that of slightly different tailored creative and a leave behind. And a lot of the bigger brands are able to do their market research and say, expats might be an example. Maybe Telstra wants to have a slightly different message to expats about speaking to loved ones back home than they might do to someone that we know has lived in Australia their entire life.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I had a question come in from Joe. How can a firm involved in an industry that isn't necessarily an easy social media sell, like trucking or fuel, gain brand recognition through social media? You know, they're not sexy, but they're important, and they have a message they need to get across. How do they do it?
Yes, I mean, like some of the targeting options that we've available with those is you can identify people that work in the transportation industry on Facebook. You can try to look at your audience and try and build up a picture of who you think they are and things they might be interested in doing. I'm making things up. Maybe you think that they might be interested in rugby league and rugby union. Maybe they're male. Maybe they're interested in certain trucking websites or trucking publications and that sort of thing. And you can apply these filters to hone in on that audience. And then creating a message is something that's going to take time, and you're going to have to iterate and see which works well for you. So once you've predefined your audience, then it's a matter of playing around with imagery and seeing what works. And one post might get you double the amount of awareness or website clicks than another. So it does become a sort of test and iterate sort of approach. So that's why we do tell brands and advertisers, like, start narrow, start small, see what works, and then look to scale. Yeah.
So let's jump into some of that segmentation and that fragmentation that we see now in advertising.
Yeah, so this is an example of, I guess, demonstration of what I messaged. So it's still a mass campaign, but then you have different bubbles within that, and your messaging might be slightly different for each bubble. Maybe one bubble is higher value than another audience, so you might be willing to pay a slightly different amount of money to reach some people. So the example here, you've got current customers. You probably want to speak to them in a different way that you might want to speak to lapsed customers. So customers who used to use your service, you've got information about them, but now they're not there. So that might be a more come back to us type message. So it's still that mass approach, but they're having a slightly different skew. And I've actually got a video case study that hopefully we can share with the guys a bit later. And it talks about an online retailer, a fashion designer, and how Mishka basically started off with a very small audience using Facebook targeting, and how they kind of grew their audience and turned fans into customers, and how they basically drove sales in time. And we'll play that now, and then we'll come back to it as I think we go through the conversation.
Yeah. So if we could go ahead and play the video right now, we'll find out about Mishka.
When I started Mishka, I always wanted it to be a community. Facebook provides that. Mishka is an online fashion retailer. It's a home-based business. We're all on Facebook. We're all having conversations with each other. There was so much going on, and I thought to start a fan page. I prepared a really small collection of about 20 pieces. It was really, really daunting. No one was there. Launched the page and started to invite friends. Within about a week or two, sold out of that collection. It felt like an overnight kind of, oh wow, I'm onto something. If I share content, I want to know what everybody thinks about it. That's how the business kind of grew and grew so fast, is that I was listening to what people had to say. And that's the beauty of Facebook, that there's that immediate conversation with relevant people. Facebook advertising is a major part of our marketing mix. You can set up an ad, follow the steps. You can target your ads. It's a way for us to communicate with people who don't know about Mishka, and you'll know what works from the results that you get. We had 1,000 unique buyers in the first 6 months with around 40% repeat purchases. 60 new customers purchasing each week, and sales have increased by 300% in our second year. And all of that, 100% of our revenue is exclusively driven from Facebook. Currently, we've got 105,000 Facebook fans, which is incredible. And that in turn means that we can reach 14 million people. Every success that I've had in my business has been because of Facebook. My friends 2 years ago were like, I can't believe people want to buy stuff off Facebook. Like, why on earth would they do that? And, you know, now it's a given.
You know, I think that's a fascinating story because nobody likes advertising unless it appeals to them. It's something that they're particularly interested in. You know, I don't want to see a commercial for something for a F-150 truck because it's not relevant to me at all. Yeah. But I'm very interested if they're talking about the latest craft beer. So, you know, if that message comes through, and it looks like in this case it did, that's extremely effective.
Exactly. And I think that is exactly the way that Mishka approached, I guess, their challenge. They had a fairly niche female audience that they were targeting initially, and then they built on some of our more of our ad tech to scale their audience. But as you saw, they were listening, they were engaging, they knew the direction they had to take the brand and take the communications to end up in the position that they are, today.
And let's not forget that it's really important that their product was good and that the service was good. Because you can do all the advertising and get all those likes, but if ultimately at the end of the day, what you're providing isn't good, then it's not going to matter.
Exactly. You've got to be able to do it before you can say it.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of questions that are coming in from you in the audience, so I do want to continue to get to these. Mary's got the question. She's a tax agent, and when you think about taxes, you're not always necessarily happy, but you need a good one. How can she drive people to her website when there are a lot of people out there who do a similar job? How do you differentiate yourself in the field?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess right now is a seasonally a good time for a tax firm to be out there in market. And essentially, if that was so, in that environment, if your objective is applications through an online website, you need to go through a process of onboarding our ad tech, essentially. So if you can have a conversion pixel on your website at the end of the application process, so that when someone clicks on a Facebook ad, goes through to your website, fills in an application, or clicks a call, Facebook will basically get a signal saying, okay, this type of person for that particular business is the relevant person to serve the next message to.
Okay.
So you need to make sure, so your objective is website conversions. You've put the conversion pixel in place so the data flow between Facebook and your website is optimized and at best practice. So rather than just having a super general, oh, everyone does tax 18 to 45, let's put it out there and see what happens. The more you can get Facebook talking to your website so that both can learn off each other, the better. Because at the end of the day, we want to deliver the best results for advertisers as well, because then they invest more in us. So that example is a performance direct response campaign, and there are certain best practices that you go through to do that. And
that's an interesting point, because the Mishka example brings up that you need to know who your audience is and start targeting them first, and you could expand out from there. So how do I, as a business, know who's best to target? Aside from, just knowing generally my customers. Yeah,
I mean, if you're in a position where you literally don't know who your audience is whatsoever, and I know they're 18 plus, then the best way to do it is essentially to set up when you create Facebook campaigns, you can segment them out into different demographics. So you can have a male, female, and then fans bucket, for example, and then you put exactly the same piece of creative in each of those buckets, and you spend $100 on each. And then you'll learn, okay, I put the same amount of money in women as I do men, but I'm getting twice the amount of clicks from women than there are men. In future, I should invest a lot more time in women, or maybe I'm going to exclude men completely from my advertising until I really hone in on who within women is important to me. And then maybe you'll cut that audience in half. And maybe you'll do some A/B testing on these guys are interested in fashion, whereas these guys are interested in travel.
Yeah.
And try to get try to get closer if you're in a position where you have a product which has wide appeal.
So right now we've got 2 pieces of content up on the screen, and I want you to take me through what makes good content, what makes a good ad on Facebook.
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to always consider is you want to be able to stand out and you want to be relevant to your brand. So these 2 ads are Telstra examples, and you only need to scan your eye on it for half a second to recognize that it's a Telstra ad. That there are a lot of brands that still think they need to find topical content, maybe the latest meme that's going out, to align your message with. But it's not relevant to your brand. You're not immediately getting that association with your brand. People want to recognize what it is immediately. So the number one thing is association with your brand, and then you want to craft a message that is relevant to the user. So if I don't know how well the folks at home can see it on the screen, but these are talking about 2 very similar products. But as you can see by the content, they're actually targeting different people. So one's a younger girl texting late at night, and then one's an elder gentleman that's kicking back and relaxing, and in a completely different stage of his life, and that message is going to resonate more to him. And when you're someone like Telstra, you can look at things like product holdings, like who has a prepaid phone, who has a postpaid phone, who is a customer, who isn't a customer. Because I probably want to talk to my own customers in a slightly different way, because they expect me to talk to them in a slightly different way to a non-customer. So these are examples of cutting out, being relevant to your brand, and then segmenting to make sure you're relevant to the end user that's scrolling through their newsfeed. Yeah.
So how do you differentiate that content? I mean, it's easy for us to look at Telstra and say, well, you can obviously tell this is Telstra because people know the Telstra logo. But how do you break out from a pack? From if you're like Mary and you've got your tax accountant, how do you break out and make that message clear and give yourself a persona and your business a persona?
A lot of the time we talk about having a point of view when you're going to market and looking at the human experience behind your service or your product. So if I'm a user, a consumer, and I haven't done my taxes yet, maybe I'm stressed, and that's the underlying reason why a tax message might stand out for me at that point in time. So is it someone ripping their hair out? Is it time to do your tax type thing? That's gonna resonate to me. And as I get further away from when taxes are due, maybe the messaging changes slightly. Or tax was due a week ago, tax was due 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'm also getting information from that brand or that advertiser. So, oh wow, I completely forgot that tax was actually due. No, and this seems like a good first place for me to start doing my research.
Yeah. So let's take through the funnel of and the roles of Facebook for building awareness of a brand.
Yeah. So I mentioned before the importance of identifying your objective, because your objective will help you understand who your audience should be for, and also what post, what creative you want to put on the platform.
Right. What are you asking people to do?
Exactly. So this sort of demonstrates a purchase funnel right down from awareness down to advocacy, and a different objective and different ways you can measure different layers within that funnel, and then this will turn into later on some of the posts that apply to it.
Yeah.
So if you are Mishka, you're going for conversions. You want people to be buying product from your website.
Right.
Whereas if you're a new restaurant that's just launched in the outer suburbs of Sydney, all you probably want is for people within a 10-kilometre radius to know that you exist.
Yeah.
So then your objective is awareness. So maybe it's a simple static image to say, hey, we're here, or a video if that's something that you can pull together. Yeah.
So there's an interesting question that came in from Lauren, and it's how businesses interact with other businesses. Is it common practice for business pages to follow other business pages, to share relevant content? How do you get attention organically, and then you can build off of that success? But how does a business build that following?
So I'm assuming from the way the question is asked is it's a business to business, a B2B type product. It's hard. I guess it's hard to gauge from the question what that is. But absolutely, like if you following other businesses is a great way to see how those businesses are going about what they're doing, if they have similar objectives, and if they're a competitor of you. If you were an advertiser, I wouldn't recommend start tagging too many other brands in your message or sharing their content, because again, you want to make sure that whatever you're sharing, whatever you're putting out there is aligned with the point of view of you as a business. And unless it's really obvious that the point of view of this other page is relevant for you, I would probably recommend moving away from it.
Right.
You really want to be strict on who you are and what you think is relevant. And it's going to be hard to find another brand, another market with slightly different customers, with slightly different products that's going to be the right fit.
You can't necessarily be a shoe company, expect to find a good sock company that shares good content and share that. Yes, they work together, but it's not really going to work out.
Exactly.
So another question came in from Jane, which is a bit tangential to this, but it's about that user experience. A lot of companies don't allow Facebook access at work time. How do we use Facebook to better reach corporate users and executives?
Well, I mean, an easy solution for that would be to only target your ads on Facebook on mobile. Most people are using private mobiles, or workplaces aren't blocking the mobile usage. So one easy thing you can do is target people from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on their mobile devices, knowing that you're missing half the audience if you target desktop only.
Yeah.
So that would be quite an easy little tactical change you can make to get around that.
Yeah. So let's dig in into some of the objectives now in a little more detail, starting out with the brand awareness and the different types of ads, because I think that's one thing that I was surprised by, is the variety of options that are available.
So I've this slide sort of separates out the top two tiers, I guess, in that funnel, more the brand objectives, and the three kind of types of posts you have to hit those goals. So you've got the video post on the left, sight, sound, and motion. If you have the resource and production to do that, obviously it's a fantastic way of communicating your message and really standing out. In the middle there, you've got your photo ad, which is going to give you the biggest canvas to get your message out. But this isn't a clickable unit. Like if you want to drive website clicks, don't do a photograph ad, because if you click on the photograph just gets bigger.
I've done that many a time, thinking I'm clicking through to a link, and I'm actually kind of annoyed when it happens.
Exactly. Like from a user experience case, they can look quite similar, but there is a link click versus a photo click. So photo click's great for, I'll use a restaurant example as well. So if you have a restaurant but not a website, so there's no reason for you to be clicking people through, then maybe do a photo post.
Yeah.
But otherwise, a link post is often better, because if someone engaged and someone's interested in that photograph, they have the opportunity to go deeper and go to your website and ask a query or make a purchase or whatever it might be.
So the carousel ad, it looks just a little off and odd here on our screen, but the reason is that there's a variety of different things you can do. So why don't you go ahead and take me through what is a carousel ad, first of all?
The carousel ad is almost a hybrid between what we call a branding unit or an awareness unit, and a direct response unit is something that you can get. You're encouraging someone to take a direct action on after seeing it. So the carousel ad, essentially, when it loads up initially, you're going to see one photograph, and you see a slither of the next photograph. And essentially what that's going to create is a storyboard. So you can tell a much more in-depth story about your brand. And different advertisers have used this in very different ways. So one simple example might be, I'm going to use it as a catalog of sorts. So I have my 4 best-selling products on there. So then as a user, I see that, and maybe the first product I see isn't relevant for me, but the second one is, and the third one's even more relevant. And then from there, you can actually click through and go through to the website as well. So rather than putting all your everything into one basket with product A, you can essentially put 4 products in this one unit and let the user decide whether that's relevant for me and whether I want to engage more.
That's interesting, because I can think of several examples where I may look at something the first thing and it's not. I mean, it may be relevant, but it's not something I'm interested in now. Do you find that people are scrolling past the first one to find, if they look at it and go, I just bought shoes, I don't need shoes right now. Are they swiping through?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it would depend on the advertiser, and do I have a history of this advertiser, and have I seen them before? And you want to make sure, obviously, that leading image, that hero image, is the best one you've got. But a lot of people, especially on the mobile devices now, they're so used to scrolling through, and this functionality has been available on Facebook for quite some time. Like, even something when you add a new friend on Facebook, obviously you can scroll through and find other people that you might want to become friends with the platform. So people are used to this user experience now. Another way that brands have done this is sort of led with a more lightweight, entertaining image there, a more engaging one, and then you get more product heavy and retail heavy as you go along. So you win them over, you get the attention with something a bit more lightweight that's not so much click on this ad now to buy a pair of shoes. It might be someone on a catwalk. And then as you scroll through, it gets a lot more specific to that particular pair of shoes and how much it might cost. And the last one asks you to click through here. So the user can come in at a higher level, decide whether it's vaguely relevant for me, and then, okay, yep, keep going. Okay, now I want to go through and continue my journey with that brand. So there's a few different ways that you can use this canvas. It just gives you a lot more variety in what you can do. Yeah,
you brought up a good point there, which is new business versus an existing brand or an existing relationship with a brand. How is the best way to engage with a new audience? Which style of ad is the best way to generate that new business?
Yeah, I personally would always recommend the carousel ad unit, because you have, if you're a completely unknown brand and someone that a user has never experienced before, if you go straight to the bottom of the funnel and say click here for a half-price product, it's probably not going to perform as well. So we can go back to the tax example before. So that first post can focus on the human emotion of stress around tax time, something that everyone can relate to.
Right.
And then you can scroll through, and then the next message can be, we are national experts. We've got 50 outlets Australia-wide to try and build up some credentials about your specific company. And then the last one might then ask you to click here to go through to your local store,
right,
or to make a call and that sort of thing. So it allows these unknown advertisers access, but then it means they can get more specific to why they, as an advertiser, would be or a company would be the best option for the consumer.
Yeah. So let's dig into the direct response creative now. Because once you've gotten your brand message across, we need to then follow up and actually get that action, because ads for their own sake just aren't going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So these are the direct response units we have, and a lot of you would be hopefully familiar with seeing these in your own newsfeed. So the first one on your left, it's still a link ad, but it's a video link ad. So essentially what that is, if you have video content, you can put that in. So as you scroll through, you're going to get sight, sound, and motion.
Yep.
So hopefully you get more cut through from that. But then you see there's a learn more call to action button on the bottom right. So if you click that, it's going to take you straight off of Facebook to the website.
Okay.
So just another way of getting cut through. But the prime objective for that is not video views, it's traffic to your website.
Right.
So again, what the point I made before about what's your objective? Do I have a video that I just want the maximum amount of people to watch it? Then I do a video post. Or do I just have video, but my prime objective is actually traffic to my website? Then this is the ad unit that you should be using. And then the most commonly used one, which is the link ad, which looks very similar to the photo ad, but that has a far bigger clickable area. So in this example, if you click on that photograph, it's actually going to take you to the destination, as opposed to making the photograph bigger. It sounds like a silly mistake to make, but a lot of advertisers are so used to uploading photographs, and they might have a little bit.ly link in the copy. Like, as a user, that's not
clear.
That's not clear, and that's not a good user experience.
Yeah.
And then finally on the right there, the other unit we have is the mobile app install unit. So if you're an app developer, and obviously you want to find people on the appropriate mobile device that your app runs on, and you want to take them directly to the App Store to get downloads, this is obviously a very common and popular unit for them to use.
Now, say for example, I'm a business that has gotten some traction with a post organically that I've posted. Is there value in sponsoring that so it goes wider?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at, taking a step back from some of the bidding and budget things you have to factor in when you're doing a Facebook campaign, on its most simple level, how successful your ad is in Facebook will depend on how much you're bidding and how good your content is. So Facebook will look at when you target a certain audience with a certain post and you're willing to pay this much. If you're getting really good traction and really good click-through rates and really good engagement or really good video views, then Facebook knows that it's actually easier for us to deliver on your objectives because it's a more compelling piece of content. So it actually becomes cheaper for you to advertise. Whereas if you're paying us $100 and we know that, hey, like, no one's actually clicking on this, like the targeting is wrong or the bidding's wrong, it actually becomes more expensive, and that's when you should stop. So back to your question, if you do see something that's naturally having a lot of traction organically, then you're obviously doing something right. So put some money behind it and then see if you can figure out what it was you were doing right in that instance.
Right.
And then learn from there.
Yeah, so you mentioned the bidding aspect, and I find that a little bit confusing because, again, it's very different from the old style of you have a set price for a set page in the paper, and that's, you know, what you pay for a set time of day during a TV advertisement. So why don't we start thinking about the bidding aspect? But first, let's talk about targeting your audience and finding the right people to target.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll relate back to the Mishka case study that we walked through before when going through these slides. And those of you that tuned into the last virtual event we did, this is the same slide we have on there, which I think really summarizes the options on Facebook quite well. So on the left there, we have core audiences. So core audiences are essentially people that you can target within the Facebook platform based on the information that we have about that person. So I did the example before, how you can select people by age, you can select people by where they live, you can select them by what they're interested in doing and some of the behavior they have on the platform. So that's one level of targeting you can do, and one audience you can separate out and put a certain ad to, spend money against, and see how that performs. In the middle there, we have custom audiences, and custom audiences is essentially identifying your own customers on the Facebook platform. So what Mishka was able to do is, over time, they started pushing traffic over to their own website. One example of custom audiences is you can start to build up an audience of people that have gone to your website and start retargeting them with messages. Because if you know someone's clicked on your ad, gone to your website, but then not made a purchase, they've already shown a level of intent. So they should be someone that you want to send your message again, because maybe product A didn't work, but product B might work. Another example for Mishka is if you've got a loyalty card or if you've got customer lists of frequent purchasers. If you have email addresses and phone numbers of those people, you can actually encrypt them in a data-safe way, match those people on Facebook, and then reach them in their newsfeed. So if you have a loyalty program, again, these guys have bought from you before, they're far more likely to convert than someone that's never heard of you before. So you want to guarantee that that person sees your message, because the alternative might be an email or it might be a phone call, but email especially, with open rates getting lower and lower, it's hard to justify return on spend with that. So
it looks like one of the things that we're running into here is that there's a lot of information in here that you can learn about your customers, that you can do to target. So we're going to break into in just a moment, how you can sort of manage all of this without adding staff. But first, I have a question for you in the audience, which is, what challenges have you faced with paid advertising? Not enough time to manage them, not enough resources. Is it poor campaign performance, so you've abandoned it, lack of platform knowledge, or all of the above? And while those are populating, had a question come in from Trish. With resources becoming an ongoing issue with all small and medium businesses, how do they ensure they get the most out of Facebook without having to put on more people or take people away from their core job to manage these resources?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a question obviously we get a lot. In terms of our tools are available on mobile devices, on desktop devices. It is something that you can do on the go once you become familiar enough and comfortable enough with the process. But a lot of the time you can quite simply create one piece of advertising. It'll take you half an hour to separate 4 different audiences and let that go for 3 weeks. And then you can almost forget about it for 3 weeks if that's a decision you want to make. And then come in after 3 weeks, get all the learnings, which audience performed best. Okay, now I'm going to set up the next 3 weeks or the next 6 months. Some brands and products are going to be particularly time sensitive if there's a weekend sale that's only relevant for that weekend, and obviously then you might have to jump in and out more frequently. But if you're a product that's available year round, that doesn't have particularly seasonally aligned messaging, there's no reason why you can't put minimal budget in, set and forget for 3 weeks, and then come back in. If it worked, keep doing it, and then and start making more time for it.
Yeah, and another question sort of on that theme, and by the way, we have our results. About 23.8% say lack of platform knowledge is one of the things they struggle with, but really all of the above, over almost 55% of the audience say they struggle with a wide variety of issues. So it's the one thing I know we want to get into right now. But Jin has the question, we're a buying group and wanted tips on how we could communicate a coherent message to both the end users and existing members, using a variety of channels, be that Instagram, be that Facebook. Is there a way to create sort of a single campaign that you can just keep reusing and target it to different audiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the example there were non-customers and existing customers. So you can almost set up a stream or a platform. So I want to invest $100 a week to my existing customers every week for the rest of the year. Hit go with Creative One, and then maybe every week you want to drop in a new message or refresh that message. So you can set up that campaign, let it go, and at different times jump in and switch the message over and do that. So it's not like every single time you have a new post you have to start from scratch. You can just switch in a new creative or slightly adjust the existing campaign from men 18 to 35 to men 18 to 40. Like you can sort of make small changes along the way rather than recreating the wheel every time you want to do something or change something.
And off of that as well, Lauren has the question, what social publishing tools would you recommend for small business?
I mean, there's such a plethora out there, and I guess we don't officially endorse any one from the other. Yeah, there's no easy way to answer this question because there's so many out there, and we have to, I guess, be neutral in this environment.
Of course.
Brands like Tiger Pistol are a good local provider. I know they're doing a lot, particularly with small and medium businesses. So that might be one that you can look at.
Well, let's run through the campaign flow now to get a sense of how to actually do it yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So this is in its most simple form the process that Facebook will ask you to do as you go through to build a campaign. So set your objective, define your audience, decide what your budget is and what your bidding strategy might be. I'll get into more detail about that, and then upload your creative. So we'll jump into that to give you an understanding of how it is. So the platform to buy ads on Facebook is facebook.com/ads/manage. If you already have a page, there'll be a link in the top right to start boosting and creating ads for your page. And this will be the first thing you see. So let's say, what is your objective? And you can see there's a whole bunch of different objectives here. Are you trying to get fans of your page? Are you trying to get website clicks? Are you trying to get conversions on your website, app downloads, views of your video, people to come to your event? So the first thing you'll do is come with this screen. So obviously you click whatever is appropriate with you.
Well, actually, I had a question coming in that kind of deals with this, like from Carl. If there's a pharmacy in a busy shopping center, what benefit is there to then going on to Facebook as opposed to just relying on the foot traffic or existing business that you already have?
So, I mean, the Facebook in that example, I think, would be used to get more scale. So if you've got foot traffic that's already coming in, and for me, we're doing it, they're probably going to look after themselves. If you want people from surrounding areas or surrounding neighborhoods to get in, then you probably want to do something like an offer ad, which is near the bottom of the screen there, casting a wider footprint of 20 kilometers around your store. Print out this offer, come in, you maybe, for example, get 20% off your first purchase. So in that scenario, Facebook would be used to get more scale and broaden your footprint than those in that local area.
And we're low on time, so I don't want to belabor this, but like the reach people near your business, I think it's a very useful tool. So you've got somebody around dinner time looking for perhaps dinner, but you don't necessarily know what they're looking for. How does that sort of geo-targeting work?
So there's a whole bunch of different, I guess, data points that we're using, from IP address that someone's logging into, from recent check-ins, and where they've logged in on the platform. So that'll help us get an indication of where that person is. So you can start creating a geosphere, as you said, around your store, and say if people are within this sphere between the hours of the dinner example, 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. or 8 p.m., then hopefully I can become relevant to them at that moment in time, and they can come into my restaurant. Yeah,
so there are a lot of objectives that you can ultimately, a lot of things you want to be able to do that you can do through targeting in the Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
But then we get into the budgeting and the bidding. So explain to me how this works.
So I think have we skipped one? I think there was an audience one just before.
Here we go.
We might have gone back one. So once you've set your objective, and basically the flow that you'll see after you've hit your objective will be slightly different. So if you've told us that your objective is website clicks, we won't let you do a photo post, for example.
Oh, really?
Because we know that's not going to be the best piece of creative for you to hit your objective. So it will slightly vary. So I'll sort of caveat this. This is a certain user journey, but the flow is generally the same. So this is the interface where I ask you to define your audiences. So at the top there, you can, at the moment here, we're looking at all Australia with no filters on it whatsoever. And you can see on the right there, it's saying there's 13 million people available to you on the Facebook platform to target. Within that, you can target Brisbane. Within that, you can target male, female. You can target certain age brackets. And then you can look at things like interests. So you can put rugby league, or whatever it might be, or you can say work in the finance industry. Yeah. And then that audience gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and it means you're defining them. And then you're ready to go to the next stage, and how much money you're willing to spend to them, and as we go.
And so that's our budget and bid, and that's how much you can set a cap, how much you want to spend. You mentioned, drop $100 in per month and just let it go.
Exactly. So the screen set right now is on a daily budget. So you can either set a daily budget or a lifetime budget, depending on what you're looking to do. And then you can set the campaign to be ongoing, so keep going until you tell it otherwise, or you can set a clear start and end date. So I want to spend $100 between tomorrow and Sunday, and you set the parameters that way. And then you tell Facebook what your objective is. So is it page likes, is it website clicks? And then there are two options beneath there to basically indicate to us what you are willing to pay. Let's say for the example of a website click. So you can either say, I will pay what the market rate is at that time to get that website click, or I know, because I've done my margin analysis, that I can only afford to pay 20 cents or 50 cents or whatever it might be to get that website click. If I'm paying 80 cents to get a website click, then it becomes unprofitable to me, because I know that drop-off rates are X, and not that many people are actually going through or converting. So tell Facebook exactly what you're willing to bid for that person. And let's say your bid for this example is 50 cents. It doesn't mean you're going to pay 50 cents. That's just indicating what the maximum bid you're available to do.
Gotcha.
So what happens then is, when, for me as example, I log into Facebook, Facebook knows the 17 different advertisers that I fall within their targeting at that point in time, and then in real time they'll be bidding against each other, and essentially whoever has the highest bid wins that auction, and then it's a weighted average of all the bids against me that actually pays.
Gotcha.
So you might have set 50 cents as your maximum, but you might only pay 15 cents because that's what most of your competitors were willing to pay for that particular impression.
So you go a penny over or something.
Exactly. Well, for those that have done Google, so Google is a penny over the second highest bid.
Okay.
We're actually a weighted average of all of them. So that it'll often be more of an average as opposed to a margin above second best. So actually it should turn out cheaper.
Interesting. So let's talk to some of the creative side, because once you've made the decision, there are customers out there that we want to reach. What's the best way to get in touch with them? I mean, in terms of language, in terms of images. How do you do it?
So you should be familiar of the pain points of your customers, of what customers want to hear from you, what resonates hopefully through engagements and conversations and other advertising that you've done. So absolutely those need to come across and be obvious in your Facebook communication. So this is where you upload images. You can either upload images from a file, you can bring across posts which have already been published on your page, as per the example that you pointed out before. If I've already done it organically, it's gone well, and I just want to select it and put it to a campaign. And then this preview will actually give you a demonstration of what that ad is going to look like in mobile, on desktop, on right-hand side. And again, when you're looking at this, put your consumer hat on. If I saw this on my newsfeed, is it interesting? Is it compelling? Does it talk to the USP of this advertiser?
Yeah.
Is it obvious what they're asking me to do? If you don't think of it as a user that's particularly interesting to you, then go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of questions in, and we've got just about 10 minutes left. So we want to get to them. And they're asking questions about how do we show the personality of a business or a nonprofit and get it in there. So let's jump ahead just a bit into some of the creative examples, because I think these are really relevant to answering these questions. The first one we have is Lysol.
Yeah, so this basically shows two different ways to show the exact same product. So Lysol is a cleaning product, and a more traditional way of advertising that might be the example on the left. So that might be something typically what you're used to seeing in a magazine, for example. Whereas on the right-hand side, exactly the same product, but it's the human experience behind why you'd use that product. So in this example, you use that product because you have kids that make a mess, so you're reliant on Lysol. And that is something that's going to stand out a lot more in your newsfeed when you're scrolling through. But then there's no doubt that it's still relevant to Lysol. So it's not just a couple of cute kids playing. There's a direct tie-in with why the product is relevant to that situation.
Yeah. So then in our next picture, well, there are two different pictures. I think both are striking, though I would click on the puppy every time.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, this one I can demonstrate. So these are images that you're probably used to seeing in your newsfeed, and you'll see that the actual brand has been covered up in the top there. So on the left there, you don't know who that advertiser is, because lots of brands every Friday run out of ideas and they post cute cat and dog puppies, which have absolutely no relevance to their business. Whereas on the right there, you've got a Coca-Cola truck that's coming through the desert. Coca-Cola has been talking about trucks for a long time. It's instantly recognizable. You don't have to rely on the brand at the top there to identify who it is. So that's about being relevant to that, and hopefully this will pop up and show those examples. But that is just being authentic in how you're communicating your brand. And there's most brands out there, like dogs and cats, aren't going to be relevant for you.
Right. They get likes, but they're cheap likes, and they're not ones that are going to pay off for your business.
Exactly.
So let's look at, I should have eaten lunch now seeing the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, so, and this is just like inspire imagination. Try and think of a different way of showing the same thing. So there was a non-profit example that you mentioned before. So who is the prime benefiter of non-profit? How are you changing their lives? What is that story of empowerment, for example? And focus on that, because that's the human side to what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So don't go straight in, shaking the can, asking for money. Engage them with something a bit more inspirational that tells a bit more of a human story, and then humans are intelligent. They'll realize who the advertiser is, what they're asking you to do, and then if they choose to want to engage more, they will. But a lot of the time, the blinkers will come up if they see quite an ugly direct response ad.
Yeah,
straight off the bat.
Oh, well, and like the Oreo example that's up here now, I think it's a very striking image on the right. We're more than just a brand. We're more than just asking you to recognize the thing as you're walking through the supermarket aisles. It's about building an even deeper brand awareness. And recognition.
Exactly. Well, Oreo's in that position where they're such a well-known brand. Everyone knows who Oreo is. Everyone knows they make cookies, but they're now in that more brand love type area whether they're trying to foster. So how do you foster brand love? Is showing a personality and being irreverent, and they do it in a wonderful way. So I'd encourage anyone to go onto the Oreo Facebook page and just see some of the content that they're putting up, and it's fantastic. Yeah.
So in terms of best recommendations for text,
less text the better. The less text, the better. The first thing you're going to do as a user is focus on the image. The more striking, the more the image is, the more different it is to the rest of the images that you're used to seeing. It's going to get cut through. And if you're immediately being overwhelmed by images, by copy, again, you're going to lose interest quite quickly.
Yeah, and the images that you should use. I know a lot of small businesses may run into the issue of just being able to source these images, but you need to find something good.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like that. When you're looking onto the social platform, like it doesn't have to be a Getty image type, Google image type image to get cut through. There is a lot of user generated content of maybe your stuff or maybe your workman out on a job that will convey exactly what you need it to convey. It doesn't necessarily have that high bar of production quality that people expect when they're watching TV on a Sunday night, and they know a brand's invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in doing that.
Yeah. So with our last 5 minutes, I want to just jump in here to a last couple of questions that have come through. David has the question about targeting consumers. So this is great for targeting consumers for action. What about in the B2B space? What role does Facebook play?
So it is definitely harder in a B2B environment to find exactly who you need to be talking to. Like we know that there's this integration of work and personal time, and obviously people are using Facebook constantly throughout this period. So if you are to B2B, there are proxies again you can identify on Facebook. You can look at job description, so what industry someone's working in. If your product is particularly relevant for people that work in IT, there are going to be certain websites and certain things they're going to be interested in as a consumer that we can use to apply a filter to get closer to the right person. So there is so much you can do with, I'd call it native targeting on Facebook to find that right audience. Not forgetting you have customer data. Often in a B2B market, they have a lot more customer data than a B2C, because you might have ongoing customers, or you might have customers which used your service 12 months ago than do now, and there is a contract in place. They often have more data they can do in that sense. And also things like setting up, I mentioned before, the conversion pixel, so setting up the ad tech in place. So we know this is a B2B advertiser and they're trying to drive conversions on their websites. If that conversion pixel is on the advertiser's website, again, a signal comes back to Facebook and says, this is the person that makes sense for this particular advertiser. So it's not as much of a finding in the dark type scenario. So the more you can use those three buckets that I laid out, the better. And often in a B2B market, you might start with the custom audiences, then you might create lookalikes of the people that are already your customers, and then maybe you'd scale out to a more general approach of males 30 to 45. But I definitely wouldn't start wide and get narrow. It has to be the other way around.
Yeah. So with our last 2 minutes, one final question, the 3 key takeaways for people to do on Facebook. What do you recommend?
First thing is absolutely consider your objectives, because with objectives, everything else is going to flow from there, and you'll know at the end of the day whether that campaign has been successful for you. Another one is going in with a test and learn approach. So start small, start going in there and separating your audiences out, so you can and do some maybe A/B testing, so you can learn with time, so you can feel that what you're doing is starting to perform better.
Well, the Mishka example is great, but don't expect that overnight.
No, exactly. And Mishka started, as I said, going very niche, using niche of email targeting, and then they scaled out. And the last one is being relevant to your brand. So don't feel authentic. Don't feel like you have to post once every day, and so you're frantically Google searching images that you think are topical or funny at the time. Post as regularly as you can, as long as it's authentic to you and serves you and your customers.
So that's all the time we have. So Ross Wakeham, thank you very much for taking a few minutes. In just a moment, a survey is going to pop up on your screen. Let us know how we did and what we would like to see in the future. Just as a word of note, we'll make a copy of the slides available post-event, so you can go back and review a lot of the material that we've gone through, because I know we took on quite a lot. So thank you very much for taking some time and talking through some of the options with Facebook. Hope you found it interesting and hope you found it useful. I'm Justin Cleveland, and this has been a Telstra virtual event. Thank you.